Hello guys, today I want to discuss with you some 10 common terminologies in AI that you must know so that you can be part of the conversation. Okay, everybody is talking about AI, whether you are a business analyst, a product manager, or just a manager in some business, or you are a data scientist or whatever. You must know this terminology so that you can communicate and join the conversation of all things AI. Okay, so I'm going to explain a few things, 10 terminologies for you. Okay, number one is generative AI. What is generative AI or Gen AI? Okay, so Gen AI is basically an AI system that is trained to generate new content. Okay, this new content could be images, could be text, could be music, but it's trained to generate these new content based on patterns of data that the system has been trained with. Okay, a good example of generative AI is ChatGPT. You put in some input and you ask a question and it generates some response for you, so it's generating some response. Okay, another example could be image generation platforms like DALL-E or Midjourney. Okay, so that is generative AI. I'm linking a video for here for you to watch that can actually give you more information about Gen AI, because I did a detailed series on different components of AI. Okay, number two is LLMs or large language models. What are LLMs? So LLMs are basically AI systems that are designed or trained to understand and generate human-like text or language. Okay, and they are trained on massive amount of data, and so they can actually answer a lot of questions, do summarization, even do translation from one language to another. They are trained to do all of that. Okay, so those are large language models, and I've also done some video recently about large language model that you can look at so you can understand more. Okay, now terminology number 3 is prompt engineering. Have you heard about this? Everyone is talking about prompting and prompt engineering. So what actually is prompt engineering? Okay, so prompt engineering is actually the practice of crafting inputs that are actually called prompts. Crafting those inputs to actually guide generative AI, or LLM system like ChatGPT to generate useful outcomes for you. Okay, so you actually craft inputs in a very concise way and very understandable way, in a way that the AI system can understand, so that you can guide this system towards producing some output. So if you carefully design your prompt actually and you execute it very well, you can actually get good output. And the same AI systems, if you prompt it differently, you can get one answer compared to if you prompt it in another way. So prompt engineering is one of the very useful skills that everyone must develop these days, so that you can actually take full advantage of an AI system. So that is prompt engineering. Okay, now the next terminology I want to discuss is what is called zero-shot prompting. So I just talked about prompt engineering, but you can actually have what we call zero-shot prompt, or few shot prompt. And what does that actually mean? Okay, so zero-shot prompting is actually a technique in AI where the model is actually instructed to perform a task solely based on just the prompt, okay, without providing the AI some sort of examples. Okay, so that's zero prompt. Okay, but if you provide one example, then that's called one-shot prompting. If you provide two examples, that's two-shot prompting. Okay, so zero-shot is like just give the prompt to the AI systems without providing these AI systems some or task specific examples. Okay, so far we've talked about what? 4 AI terminologies. Number 1, Gen AI or generative AI. We talk about LLMs or large language models. We also talk about prompt engineering, and we talked about zero-shot prompting. Okay, so the next terminology that I like to describe for you is called RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. So what is RAG? Well, RAG is really an advanced technique that enhances the performance of generative model or an LLM by integrating an external information retrieval component. Okay, the purpose of doing this is to ensure that your system or your generative AI system, or let's say your LLM or your chatbot, can give you the best up-to-date information, because typically when the LLM is trained, the LLM knows only the information that is being trained on. And so if new information is created or information is updated, there needs to be a way to enhance how the system answers the questions or generates your responses by what? Bringing in an external knowledge component, okay, through what we call a retrieval component. Okay, so a typical example is this. So let's say I have a chatbot that is trained on internet data, and this was trained by December 2024. So anything that happened after December 2024, this chatbot do not know. Okay, so I can enhance the performance of this chatbot by bringing all new information through what we call retrieval augmented generation, and this will enhance the answers that I get whenever I use my system. Okay, so RAG is very important, and just know this terminology so you can be part of the conversation. Okay, now terminology number 6, it's embeddings. Okay, what are embeddings? So you hear people talking about embeddings a lot in the world of AI. So just in very simple terms, embeddings in LLMs, or even in AI, is just like a numerical representation of linguistics. So like words, phrases, sentences, like numerical representation of these words, phrases, and sentences in a vector space, so that the AI model can understand them. Because look, AI actually doesn't understand just the words. You have to express them in what? In vector, in a mathematical form, and that's what we call what? Embeddings. Okay, now embeddings are very important to allow the LLM to process information. Okay, so whenever someone is talking about embeddings, just know that they're just talking about what? Vector representation of linguistics or words in an AI model. Okay, so that's terminology number what? I think that's number 6. Okay, now let's talk about number 7. One other thing that you hear a lot about in this AI thing is tokens. Okay, so sometimes you hear, oh yeah, this token is, this model is using a lot of tokens versus this one is, the token price is this versus that. What actually are tokens in LLMs? Okay, so in simple terms, tokens are fundamental units into which text is divided for processing. Okay, fundamental units in which text is divided for processing. So for example, if you say something like I like cat, you can split it into I like cat. Okay, so that is 3 tokens. Okay, so there are different methods of tokenization, and so just in simple terms, tokens are just basically the basic unit for splitting inputs of your AI models. So the next terminology I will discuss is very related to the tokens, and that is called context window. Okay, whenever people are talking about LLMs and if they are inputting information for the system to generate answers to them, they talk about context window. So what actually is context window? So context window really refers to the maximum amount of text. Okay, so context window refers to the maximum amount of text measured in tokens that the model can process at any given time. Okay, so the maximum amount of text measured in tokens that the model can process at one time. Okay, so this is very important because some models have very small context window and some have very wide context window. In fact, nowadays some models like ChatGPT, you can put in a whole 100-page book and ask them questions. So the context window is so wide that it can actually have like a 100-page book context. So that's what it means, context window. Okay, so I hope you now understand these terms. Okay, retrieval augmented generation, embeddings, tokens, and context window. Okay, so the next terminology I would like to talk about is temperature. Okay, now I'm not talking about temperature of the room or temperature of your daughter, whether they have fever or not, but like, what the heck is temperature in AI models? Okay, so in LLMs, temperature is actually the parameter that controls the randomness of the responses that are generated. Keep in mind, all these AI or LLMs, they are probabilistic models. They are looking at historical data or the data that they know that they have been trained with to predict the next data. So there is a component of what? Randomness, okay, or probabilistic component of it. And so temperature in this system actually control how random your answers or your output is generated will be. Okay, and so some systems allow you to actually set your own temperature. Okay, I think in ChatGPT, some of the versions, you can actually check your temperature or set it whatever you want. Okay, so for example, if you set your temperature to be low, that means that you want your system or your probability distribution to be what? Very sharp. Okay, and so it's going to make sure that the answers that are being generated are highly probable. Okay, so you want your probability distribution to be very sharp and the results will be a little more deterministic. Okay, this type of situation is best used when you actually want responses to scientific type of questions or questions that actually need what? Factual responses, so that you don't want the system to like be too creative. Okay, so anyway, so that is temperature if you want to make it lower. Now if you are, let's say, you want creativity, you want the system to generate some wild responses and really be very imaginative, you can set your temperature to be high or like more than 1. Now if you do that actually flattens the probability distribution, and hence your answers are less probable. Okay, and so that's really what temperature is. Okay, so when we are talking about temperature, we are not talking about how hot or cold the AI model is. Okay, I hope this makes sense. And finally, my favorite one is hallucinations. What are hallucinations in AI models? Okay, well, in LLMs, hallucinations actually refers to generation of tests that are kind of plausible but completely wrong. Sometimes these AI systems can be overconfident. You give them an input, which we call prompt. You give them a prompt, you ask them about something, and they actually give you the answer. And sometimes the answers are completely wrong, but they will give you the answers. They will be sure about it, and give you those answers. So, whenever we are building AI systems, we actually try to minimize hallucinations by training the system with the right information as much as possible. But because it's a probability system, no matter what you do, there will be what? Hallucinations. In fact, recently, Air Canada chatbot has hallucinated. What exactly this chatbot did was the chatbot actually indicated that passengers could apply for reduced bereavement fares retroactively. Okay, however, this claim directly contradicted the airline's official policy. So this type of misinformation actually can cause harm to the company. In Air Canada's case, this led to a court case, and they have to go to court where the tribunal actually awarded the passenger some damages. Okay, so look, when we are talking about hallucination, they are real and very important. So it's important to understand these terminologies. So when you are having conversations about AI, you are able to also contribute and just know what's going on. Okay, I hope this is helpful.